This is Blake Temez with the Blake Temez podcast, where I speak as a Catholic layman to Catholic laymen about missional living, wisdom cultivation, and legacy building in service of Christ and his bride, the Church. Thanks for being here. In my graduate course today, we talked about children's spirituality and a book by David Csinos, I think is how you pronounce that last name, in which he interviewed a number of children at a handful of churches that all belong to the same evangelical denomination. And one of the points that we focused on from his interviews with those children is that through the conversations, he detected what he called a programmatic ecclesiology in the responses that the children gave when asked to describe their church to him as if he was someone who had no experience of their church whatsoever. So in other words, tell me what your church is about as if I'm a guest, a first-time guest or a complete stranger. And the responses that the kids gave oftentimes pointed towards the activities, the programs that the church offered them, that the church was the place where they did such and such thing, where they participated in such and such event or activity. And that by itself might not be too remarkable. And Csinos connected it to a relational aspect where those programs were the locus of many of the relationships that the kids valued. But the remarkable thing was that in all of their responses about their church, there was almost a complete absence of responses that had any mention of God. In other words, there wasn't an overt connection in these children's descriptions of their church to an experience of God. And so this got our class thinking about how this programmatic ecclesiology is present in Catholic contexts as well, where for children and their families as a whole, the church is a place of certain activities rather than a place of lived relationship with God, with Jesus Christ. And without making too fine a point about this, of course, activities and certain practices are the entrance, the manifestation of relationship. Oftentimes it's just a question of, is that relationship felt, is that relationship manifest through the activities, or does it just stop at the program level? And so this is causing me to think about how sacramental preparation is often done for confirmation candidates, for First Communion, for baptism, in the case of older children, or even in the case of infants, for their parents and for their godparents, and how difficult it can be to take a step back from the programmatic, quantifiable dimension of formation, where simple attendance and completion of forms can take the place of any type of transformation in the context of relationships and disciplines. Things that can be much harder to quantify because they gesture primarily towards qualitative realities, right? Dispositions, worldview type of things. And it can be much more time consuming to facilitate that type of transformation, but also to evaluate it in a way that is holistic, right? That allows for spaces for deeper conversation, for insights to come through, and in a way that is conducive to that type of sharing and not simply, um, evaluative, like some type of like final interview, before a graduation or something like that. And so there's challenges to face. Some of this has to do with the presence and the quantity of qualified catechists, qualified community members to assist with that deeper, more difficult work that gets at the relational and the qualitative. And so, as long as any coordinator of a ministry is tackling these things on their own or with a small number of people assisting, they're going to be forced into this mode of, you know, large group catechesis that fails to respond to the individuals involved and to get a sense of where their qualitative experience of God is at, and then to give them resources to deepen that. So, without that's kind of laying the scene, without providing in-depth solutions, but one way to get at this problem and to develop a response to it gradually is for a minister or a missionary or a mentor to spend time with select individuals who have potential and interest in relational ministry and investing in them in a model that is uh, replicable, that is a model of spiritual multiplication, such that the way that you are working with them and developing them can be something that they can engage in with others, such that over time there's this expanding um, team, expanding uh, group network of um, qualified and gifted and committed individuals who can um, respond to invitations to do the harder and deeper intentional work that can allow a ministry to transition from one model to another gradually, um, and working with the structures that are in place until they can be displaced altogether. So that's a uh, encouragement and exhortation to be selective, be intentional, and be ready to uh, carry out this process over the long haul, because it is a matter of soul level, um, holistic transformation that we're after. So those are my thoughts for today about moving away from a programmatic ecclesiology, or at least situating it within a context that understands, programs as a means to transformation, not as an end in themselves. And so, thank you. God bless you in all your efforts, and peace.